I've got some questions for you. A lot of questions.
Let's do it.
Okay. First one. How did you get into real estate?
By accident, about 9 years ago, I did a house hack and a BRRRR before I even knew what those terms were. House hack, you buy a single family home or a small multifamily. You live in one of the units or one of the bedrooms and you rent out the other, and self-manage. So I did that with a single family home, and I also renovated it, rehab and refinanced. And I used that property to purchase a 4-unit property in Richmond, Virginia. And once I figured out what I was doing, really enjoyed real estate. College roommate of mine, Cassidy Burns, was doing something similar as well. And neither of us were agents at the time or fully engulfed in real estate. But we felt there weren't many real estate teams with a full investor mindset, and we wanted to capture that niche because it was also something we love to do.
Yeah.
So started BPG with that in mind, whether that be helping somebody buy their first, single family long-term rental, small to large multifamily. We still do all of those things. We're getting more into the commercial and mixed-use space now.
Yep.
And then also where I'm located in the Shenandoah Valley, working with short-term rental investors has made the most sense, primarily due to the fact of the location of the Shenandoah National Park.
It's so interesting that that's how you got into real estate. That's such a niche method, the house hacking and the BRRRR. How would you have even known to go about it that way with no experience?
Luck, kind of twofold. So Dad has a Class A contractor, HVAC background.
Okay.
So summer jobs were, blue collar type jobs. So learned a lot from that. Found a property that was underpriced and needed a full gut rehab essentially.
Yeah.
And I felt at that age, 24, that I could take it on.
Yeah.
And I did, and of course it cost more, it took longer than anticipated, all of those things. But I also had a friend who needed a place to stay and offered to rent. So once again, luck that those two things kind of meshed.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't until two to four, maybe 3 years later, that I actually found out that I actually did those two terms, house hack and BRRRR.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea.
You didn't know you were doing it at the time.
No idea. I was actually just focused back then on property value and buying correctly. So and it just kind of worked out.
That's so interesting. That's a really, really unique way to get into real estate. Not the most common method.
No, not with that amount of luck, I think.
Yeah, but it really came together and it worked out.
It did, and always tell my clients the first one just needs to be a good one.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a home run. We just need to hit a single, and that was my focus with that initial property.
Yeah.
And it is tripled in value since I purchased it. So it worked out.
Do you still own it?
I do.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's really, really cool. Good for you. So are short-term rentals like Airbnbs, are they permitted or profitable in certain parts of the Shenandoah Valley?
Yes.
Okay.
And Shenandoah Valley gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
It's the valley itself is a touch too big to fully encompass this short-term rental market. I just use Shenandoah.
Okay.
And it does, or it can get confusing if you're not familiar with the area, because there's the town of Shenandoah that's located in Page County. And then just west of that is the county of Shenandoah. And this is all Shenandoah Valley as well. And then there's the Shenandoah River that splits into two parts. And everything is named Shenandoah.
Okay.
They used that word for everything. So it gets confusing. So I generically just say Shenandoah.
Okay.
But for the short-term rental market, my top 3 markets, starting north to south, not in any particular order, be Page County, due to the fact of the Shenandoah River. All your summer activities are taken care of. entrance to the Shenandoah National Park. It is such a scenic area to be in. It's less than or 2 hours from downtown DC, so close to a population hub, and it is a great getaway from the metropolitan areas. Moving just further south, the northeast portion of Rockingham County, just outside of Harrisonburg, Virginia, there's Massanutten Resort. You still have an entrance to the Shenandoah National Park, the Shenandoah River, all of that's still located there. And then at the southernmost entrance to the Shenandoah National Park is the northern portion of Nelson County. And when the national park runs out, it just turns into the national forest.
Oh, wow.
So you still have the same Skyline Drive, you still have hiking, mountain biking, all of that. Wintergreen Resort is also located there. There's also a vineyard and brewery trail. But those are my top 3 areas in the Shenandoah market.
I love it. That's great. So how do you evaluate whether a property is a good investment?
Sticking with short-term rentals, each of the 3 areas that I mentioned, Page County, Massanutten Resort, Wintergreen Resort, they are going to differ. What criteria matters for those properties, and it also for short-term rentals comes down to what your goals are with that property, because there's different ways to go about it with the short-term rentals. They're so unique because you can stay in the property yourself, so you can use it as much or as little as you want. So some have just a base of cover my expenses, and my family and I are going to use it the rest of the time as a weekend rural getaway. Maybe they purchased at Massanutten Resort because it's near James Madison University. Kids, grandkids, or somebody is going to college there. So you have to know what your goals are for this investment, if it's for personal use or the primary criteria used for short-term rentals, or at least that I use, is overall cash-on-cash return, because it is typically such a more of a cash-heavy investment, and the property itself is going, because long-term rental, for example, you don't furnish the property. Short-term rental, you furnish, you design, you decorate.
Good point.
So it really depends on your goals, and you have to start there before even trying to evaluate.
Makes a lot of sense. So I know you mentioned cash, but how do your clients generally finance their deals? Are you seeing cash, hard money, capital, partnerships? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I have had clients purchase in cash before. Again, it's the type of financing is also going to come down to your financeability in a lender's eyes. Or if you're cash heavy and you want cash flow from a property, you could purchase in cash. I have seen that. It is a little more rare. The most common types that I see are secondary home loans. So this is a type of loan that you qualify for based off of just as you would a primary residence typically. You can utilize this in different markets across the country up to a certain point. And terms used to be super favorable in regards to interest rates and down payments. There were some programs as little as 5% down for secondary home loans. 10 is still doable, but I'm seeing that number creep up around 15.
Okay.
So low down payments there. And then the second conventional investment financing, 20-ish percent down. And then finally, a DSCR loan, or debt service coverage ratio loan.
Okay.
This is more of a commercial loan product. You still have to submit all the financials and everything, but generally the DSCR loan is evaluating the property and if it will cover its own cost.
Interesting.
As opposed to
like assessing the borrower's risk and paying that back the loan.
They're including the property, and they run what's called a rent comp schedule, and they pull other comps that are also short-term rentals and evaluate the property with that in mind as well.
Interesting. That's really cool. So are there specific towns where short-term rentals are booming due to the proximity to attractions like the Shenandoah National Park, Skyline Drive, or Massanutten, like you mentioned?
Yeah, so the areas that I mentioned previously, Page County, there's 3 towns in Page County: Luray, Shenandoah, and Stanley. all of these areas are just so scenic. Even if the property itself doesn't have a view, as soon as you get in your car and drive anywhere, you will almost consistently
view.
have a view. Yeah, close to the national park there.
Wow.
This has been an area, I know of families who have invested in Page County since 1995.
Wow.
So it's a pretty tried and true area there. And then, but the biggest area that I've seen boom, it's actually where my wife and I own our short-term rental, is Massanutten Resort in Rockingham County. It's just outside of Harrisonburg, Virginia. Wonderful resort. They're constantly putting money back into the resort with new attractions. They're expanding their indoor-outdoor water park currently, always updating the ski slopes and the systems associated with that. But great area for families to visit and vacation. But that area has seen a significant boom, and I think it is somewhat tied to James Madison University and the growth that they've had over the years, and really the following of their alumni. So I am also seeing JMU families purchase in Harrisonburg, even if it's for a short period of time,
Yeah.
you know, those 4 to 5 years where your child or grandchild would be in college.
Yeah.
So I think those are tied together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, I love that. So, what are some of the challenges that you see when renovating short-term rentals?
Well, the first challenge is you need cash, whether that's with a HELOC or an additional line of credit, or if you want to finance it via credit cards. Actually have a client who is very good with credit card hacking and getting credit card points. So it's something he was very excited about to do when renovating his property.
I might want to talk to him.
Yeah, very unique skill set. But that's the first challenge. Typically, you're hiring a designer unless you have that niche yourself.
Yeah.
And also, it can come with carrying costs because it's going to take time, probably longer, and probably cost more than you think, just like most projects. Those are the kind of three when getting into this, and then just knowing what your goals are for your property. What type of guest are you looking to attract, right? Is this a family? Are we going to have kids room, game room, that sort of thing? Or is this a couples retreat and we're going to focus on that aspect of what the property can deliver? So knowing your goals, and then also the amenities that you're going to include with your property.
Yeah, I guess just what comes to mind is, like you said, with a family, that setup of the home would look very different if it's like meant to be, I don't know, like a vacation spot, a girls' trip or a bachelor trip or something.
Right, like let's use Nashville as an example, right? Bachelorette party, you know, the pink neon light, the whole nine. Very specific guests that they're looking to attract.
Exactly.
But yeah, like for example, at our short-term rental, we have, you know, the high chairs, the baby gates, the booster seats, you know, the whole nine, to include you know, all different types of families.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So what is the demand like for long-term rentals in college towns like Harrisonburg, where JMU is, for example?
High, to say the least. There's only so much square footage, you know, in Harrisonburg.
Yeah.
Harrisonburg's about a town about 50,000, and JMU's roughly 22,500 to 25,000 students, depending on the year. So having adequate housing for those students, it's not enough. So plenty of large multifamily properties are available for student housing, but there are still, for a smaller investor, there are still townhomes or single-family long-term rentals that would be available for students to rent, and I have had clients utilize that business model. Typically for those, though, you see more of the graduate students living in those. I know JMU years ago, freshmen had to live on campus, no car, all that stuff. I'm not sure if those rules have changed, but Harrisonburg itself, although long-term rental friendly, is not extremely friendly to short-term rentals for regulatory purposes. So outside of that, because it's very hotel heavy, so the majority of these regulations are going to be driven by tax revenue.
Yeah.
And when you're landlocked as Harrisonburg, hotel tax is higher. So they have a abundance of hotels and not an abundance of short-term rentals. But on the outskirts in the county of Rockingham, Massanutten Resorts, and other areas, short-term rentals do thrive and do see bumps in foot traffic due to James Madison University, whether that be a family weekend, graduation, or even football games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So are buyers prioritizing mountain views, acreage, or river access? And how much do those features typically add to the price?
With the more rural areas, the more amenities that you can add, the better. And that's with all areas, but you can't change those natural amenities.
Yeah.
It's tough to create a view if you don't have one.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to have river access if you're not on the river.
Yeah.
There are some risks involved in that too, flood zones depending on location.
Yep.
But significant increase in purchase price and revenue generation based on the view and that river access. There are some investors in the more rural areas that will only invest if there's a view and river access both. They will not deviate from that. Is it 100% necessary in all markets? No. It's just depending on what the market calls for. For example, Page County and Wintergreen Resort are view-heavy areas. The properties that have a view tend to do better.
Yeah.
Massanutten Resort, there's like 3 roads that have a possibility for a view.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, there really is no view. Vancouver Court, Wilson Way, Rainier Road have a possibility for a view, but depending on which side of the street you're on, you may or may not even have a chance at one.
Yeah.
So that area is not view specific.
Got it. Very interesting. I don't get those views here in the DC area. So if you personally had $300,000 to invest in the Valley right now, where would you buy and why?
I'll give an example because I did this last year.
Okay.
Purchased a short-term rental. Those numbers aren't far off from where we were in purchasing the property, renovating the property, time in the property, and it's been a great experience having a short-term rental. We have been able to utilize it personally with friends and family, which has honestly been the best part of owning it. It generates the income that we thought it would, so our numbers were correct. But the fact that you're able to use it and share it with friends and family is just such a wonderful experience because there's not really many other investments that you can share like that. And then the second would be, BPG has a holdings fund and actively investing in the Shenandoah Valley as a whole. That's multifamily and commercial space. So you get all of the same benefits as personally owning the property, but it's completely passive. So it depends on your bandwidth and what you would want. Do you want the sexy short-term rental that you get to share, or do you want a straight-up investment that offers the same tax benefits, income, the return, and it's completely passive? It would really depend on your goals.
Those were good answers. Okay, so you were using these terms a little bit earlier, but I'd love for you to explain for our audience, what does buy and hold mean?
Okay.
And why is this strategy beneficial? Who is the ideal candidate for this strategy?
Great question. I'm going to answer the opposite of that first.
Okay.
So an example of a non-buy and hold would be a flip, a house flipper. Buy the house, renovate it, sell it for a margin, profit margin. That is not buy and hold. Buy and hold is exactly what it says. You purchase the property with with kind of 2 intents. One intent is to keep it for a designated time period, and that could be based on financing. If you have an ARM, adjusted rate mortgage, there may be a term 5-10 years, and your exit strategy will be before that adjustment occurs.
Yep.
Or there are some that would like to, quote unquote, create generational type wealth with this, pass it on to the next generation, and that becomes a very long-term hold with the intent of, as long as the house is standing, we will own it.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. That's a great answer. This term earlier as well, what is the BRRRR strategy?
Gotcha. Buy, rehab, rent, refi, repeat.
In that order.
In that order.
Okay.
And the strategy I mentioned earlier, you can utilize this with a primary purchase. You can also utilize this with a direct investment as well. There's a lot of investment properties out there, small multifamily, large multifamily too, or single family rentals that just need some additional rehab for you to reposition the property so that you can get rents up to market rates, or even in some cases set market rents yourself if you have the premier property. And then once you have established the property, then you can refi. There's a couple ways you can refi: cash out refi. You can pull a line of credit out on the property as well. That's another common way. And the repeat comes buying the next one from the refi of that property.
Makes sense. Can you explain to our audience what rehab is?
Yeah, and it's going to be property dependent. It could be as much as a full gut reno of a property. It might not be. It might not be as much as a full tear down and rebuild.
Yeah.
Although some people do utilize that strategy.
Yeah.
And some are as simple as paint. There's an old saying, paint it and raise the rents. That doesn't always work, but it could just be some few upgrades of a property. It has some quirkiness and maybe not a lot of storage, so adding additional storage or shelving or just making it more marketable to the rental market. And one thing I see a lot in these old properties, they don't have HVAC. So adding HVAC to these properties is a huge plus. Your tenant's not having to deal with the window unit. They can actually use the window for its intended purpose.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Making them comfortable, homey, right? Rentable.
Yeah, for sure. What is property appreciation?
That means the property has gone up in value.
Can you tell us what would be a con to someone's property appreciating? This is something I often talk about when I'm doing closings with people. I'll typically say, it's a good thing when your property appreciates. That does mean you'll likely have higher taxes.
Right. There's your answer.
There's your answer, right? But it's a good problem to have. Your property's worth more.
It is,
Property's
100%.
worth more. So what is a real estate portfolio, and how would a newbie investor evaluate their portfolio goals?
A real estate portfolio, whether that is held by a fund or an individual or a group of individuals, is their properties that they own, the totality of that. Whether it's one, or I don't know if you'd consider one a part of a portfolio, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So 1 to essentially infinite would be what was in your portfolio. And to start, once again, you have to set your goals. Is this me quitting my W-2 job and focusing specifically on real estate? Is this just an additional stream of income that I'm going to utilize in the future?
What is a landlord-friendly state, and why does it matter for investors?
Yeah, there are some regulations, whether they're for long-term or for short-term rentals. It's good and bad. Because there are landlords who aren't up to par with things, right? But hopefully the regulations are forcing landlords to keep their properties up to date and safe and up to standard. But there are some that give tenant rights above landlord rights, and whether that be for the sale of the property, the tenant could have the right to first right of refusal to purchase the property, and just some other items that give the tenants a little bit of power, and it may be hard to evict them even if they haven't paid their rent. But Virginia is a primarily friendly overall rentable state.
Good. I know you work with a lot of out-of-state clients, people who are not familiar with the area they're interested in purchasing. So I imagine a lot of their questions are based around, where do I buy, Michael, and what criteria matters in those areas. So what do those conversations look like with you?
Yeah, I've sold in a multitude of states, or have clients who have purchased from a multitude of states across the country: California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Utah. The most West Coast faraway states possible. Yeah. And they've read an article or a blog or a top 10 list, and they've seen a town mentioned that is in the Shenandoah market. Typically it's Luray or Massanutten Wintergreen. I see those on those articles quite often. But they see that, and then I'll get a call and they see it's listed as a Shenandoah area, so they think it's the town of Shenandoah or the county of
This
Shenandoah.
is what you were talking about earlier.
Yep. So it gets a little confusing. I give a full overview of the market, what I've seen from each area of the market, because it is a large net that covers multiple counties, multiple municipalities, but the areas do differ slightly, regulatory wise and criteria wise of what you need. But I go over that with my clients on the initial buyer consult or our initial call. And at the end, I send them a large list of links to all of the stuff we've talked about and other areas that we did not touch on. And then I also send them 2 maps. One that literally just outlines on the state of Virginia, when I say Shenandoah, this is what I mean. Mm-hmm. And then the next is just like a highlighted copy of municipalities in the Shenandoah market that has like best, good, or bad regulatory rules for that municipality.
So what are some of those regulatory differences in those areas?
Some areas just don't allow it.
Okay.
I mean, it's extreme as some areas don't allow it, and some areas are just wide open. Mm-hmm. You can there are no regulations because the municipality doesn't have the bandwidth to regulate it. And this comes in those smaller rural areas sometimes. But one common regulation is having a business license, and the municipality or county will have some inspections that your property needs to be cleared on to be approved for a short-term rental. Mm-hmm. That's fairly common. And then the most common is pay your taxes, your transient occupancy tax, which that number is different typically per municipality. I've seen it as low as 6 and then upwards of 10, depending on the area. Mm-hmm. But that is certainly the most common to pay your taxes.
All right, some rapid fire questions. Have you ever had a deal go so hilariously wrong, but it ended up working out in the end?
Most deals tend to have a moment that it's like yeah, this is going south. Just it's over. But I don't know if this was hilarious per se.
Okay.
But there was a property at Macedon Resort that my client was purchasing. Immaculate property. Once they finished renovating it, it's one of the top producing short-term rentals at the resort. I think it's called Valley View Retreat, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Look it up on Instagram. It's awesome. My wife and I are actually in the photos.
Oh, wow.
Of this. So my client asked my wife and I if we would do, what are they called, live shoots or
cool.
Where people are just utilizing the property.
Yeah.
So we did that for them, which was super fun. But before that, when buying the property, there was an issue with lending, an issue with the appraisal. There was a second appraisal ordered, although the first appraisal had came back at or above value. And we'd been under contract for like 4+ months because the seller had requested the delayed closing.
Sure.
My client obliged, and then the lender actually, they didn't deny financing on the day of closing. They just requested more time based on that second appraisal. And my client just was kind of like, screw it, and bought the property in cash.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In cash. They had the cash the whole time.
In cash. Yeah.
Screw it.
Yep.
We want it. We're buying it.
So he bought it and then refied.
Well, that worked out.
So.
Good for them.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. Great people too. So I'm glad it worked out.
That's awesome. What is your dream feature in a home?
Actually, let's see. I was talking to my father-in-law about, like wills and trusts and real estate in mind. And it's just part of my personality, but I typically always slide in like a little joke mid-sentence, and people sometimes catch it and most of the time do not. But I was explaining, do you want to leave blank to specific people, and how detailed do you want to get itemizing it, anything above $1,000? And I threw in, you can leave Michael your kegerator, and just kept going with the conversation. But yeah, I'll just say kegerator.
Kegerator. What's in the kegerator?
Currently, I think it is Modelo Especial.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good choice.
And
Good choice.
And it's by the pool that has a mountain view. So that's not bad either.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's amazing. Who doesn't want that in their home? What is one thing that HGTV makes look easy, but is actually more challenging than it looks?
Everything. I mean, finding the deal, financing the deal, actually being able to get it under contract, purchase the deal, rehab the deal, and move in.
I've never actually watched it, so I wasn't expecting you to say everything. If they're making everything look
it's like
too easy.
every reno show, it's like we're helping out this client, we have this property, and they have all these big plans. There's a mess that comes up at the property during the rehab, and then the next thing they do, they like build a table like that's gonna solve all of our problems, and they're like, look at this magic table from this magic log.
Okay.
We built this just for you. Look how much we paid attention during our conversations.
That's super unrealistic.
And then it's fully, completely staged when they move in, and I know they're not leaving all that behind. So it's just all of it.
Got it. Okay. What is the weirdest or quirkiest thing that you've seen or encountered while touring a home?
Let's go ghosts. Ooh. So there was like so a lot of my clients are out of state, so I do a lot of video tours. By myself. And of course it was a monsoon rain day during this showing. It was a very large house. And so a video tour typically depending on the size of the house, 30 minutes to an hour, 500
And they're live with you on the...
So no, I don't do lives because I don't know if I'll have service at the property. I don't know, sometimes there's overlapping showings that can just interrupt the entirety of the video. And then I'm scheduling my availability also around my client's availability. And speed is everything. So if I'm not getting to the property ASAP because of their schedule and they lose the property based on that, I don't want that to be the case. So I go, and I also may not have service. I don't know if I said that. And then if somebody, and also I like doing the recording because we have something to reference after the fact. And it allows me to put my notes together about the property, and then package it and send them to an email, and they can watch it as soon or as late as they want to.
Got it.
But I was doing that with one property, and I'm not going to say where or anything like that. Very large house. There was some quirkiness in the house. One of the bedrooms, you actually opened a door, full regular like bedroom door, and then it was a 8-9 foot tall crawl space that they had also built essentially a deck in it. It was the weirdest...
Inside the house?
Inside the house. It was just the weirdest thing. And you went through a room to a room to get to this room. It was like never ending home.
It's creepy.
It was like a maze. It's like one of those like scary movies where it's like the square foot on the inside of the home is larger than the outside of the home kind of deal.
Yeah.
So do the video, locking everything up, cutting off all the lights in the basement, and somebody comes in upstairs. And I'd been there a while, so I thought it was another showing. So I yelled, I said, hey, another showing going on, coming up kind of deal. I walk up, or I look at the door, there's no one there. So I was like, maybe they went outside because, I told them we had a showing going on. No one was there. And it was raining. Let's overlap. Let's not stand out in the rain. And then there was like the sound of like a vehicle starting in the garage. I know I'm going to sound crazy for this whole story, but no car in the garage. And then went to look in the garage, and then there was a fax machine, like an old school fax machine in like the laundry room kitchen-ish area, and it cut on and like answered, and it was just like a creepy movie crackly voice that came through it. And I was like, I need to just cut some light switch off and get out of here. And then something sounded like somebody was running in the basement and shut a door. The blinds started moving. It was like the whole night. And of course, I'm by myself, none of which I get on video, although I did a video. So it all sounds kind of ironic, but that I was doing a video and none of this was on the video except for the garage sound. I did get that on the video. but it was very eerily creepy. And then, of course, I'm leaving and then just get drenched. So walking back to the car.
It sounds like the ghost was trying to give you a tour. As long as they're a friendly ghost,
Yeah,
I'm okay.
not
but-
not hanging out to figure it out. So
It was really nice catching up with you, Michael.
thanks for the invite, Lee. I appreciate it.
Course.